Is Abba Gold better than today's music? That's what our theme is for today here on Mark and Pete Live. I'm Pete the Clergyman, and with me is Mark the Businessman. So what have you got for us this week, Mark? What's all this about Abba? Still around, are they?
Well, their music certainly is selling fast. And what's incredible is that their album, Abba Gold, has become the first record to spend 1,000 weeks in the UK album charts. And that's after decades since ABBA actually were performing live and as a popular group that we all knew and love
Of course.
many, many years ago in our youth. But
Yeah.
why are they keep selling? I mean, what's happening to music today? Why is it that we seem to have this penchant for old vintage music? I say
for
that.
for the golden oldies, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. We're the silver oldies with grey hair. Well, so one of us has got hair. Yeah.
Well, that's true, but not necessarily in the right place.
Yeah. That's for me to know and the listeners to find out.
Well, I mean, what really puzzles me here is this achievement is a great accolade to ABBA's great achievements at writing catchy pop songs. But I do have a particular theme. And of course, the best way to do this is to mark it with a poem. And of course, I would describe this as basically it's all about golden oldies. Abba dabba doo to the greatest hits album Abba Gold. And fabba dabba doo for all the records that have been sold. So grabba dabba doo, someone you like to dance and hold. Then flabba dabba Waterloo, which shows that you are old. Yes, Clergyman Pete, I know you like to strut your stuff to ABBA, but why can't you get down to some of the latest hits that are coming out today?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that there's something about those older songs. I guess that there's. It's something like an earworm, they sometimes call it. You know, the catchy songs like the ABBA ditties get their way into your ear and into your brain, and you can't get rid of them. Such as I could regale the listeners with my version of some of the ABBA's greatest hits, but I think that could be deemed unsuitable for public listening by YouTube. So I don't think we're going to go that route. But that's what I think. I think once it's made its way into your brain, a catchy tune, and then embeds itself there by repetition over time, it's very difficult to get rid of it. So that maybe why. I mean, why do I personally not like today's music? Well, I suppose, I mean, I don't know how to put it politely, but I think it might be rubbish.
That's a new genre.
Modern music,
rubbish music.
Rubbish music. Yeah, it seems to be a lot of it around at the moment.
Well, what's incredible, if we go back to what ABBA has achieved, and just some statistics that we can sort of cite, which is something which we should highlight, that the released album, ABBA Gold, was back originally in 1992, and the record is
just putting this on the screen now.
Is the record is the second biggest seller of all time in the United Kingdom of 5.61 million copies. Now, the irony, not the number one, is actually only behind Queen's greatest hits. Yes, that's Queen, not Elizabeth II, but Queen, the pop group, another band from a similar sort of era. But what I did like is that featuring the Swedish band's songs such as Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia and Waterloo. But what is incredible, I think, is what Benny Andersson, who is, of course, from the ABBA group, said, not bad for 4 old turnips. Essentially, a pun on Swedes being turnips.
I got it, yes, very good. And there they are in their pomp and their finery.
And you know, I think that what his comment does, in my opinion, it comes back to there's a sense of humor there, which seems to be lacking in a lot of this rather somber, almost dour type of music.
Yes, that attitude, calling himself a turnip, which, he will know that it's derogatory as well as about Swedes. So, that's great. But if we just look at their numbers on the screen, ABBA in numbers, 72 to 2021, as we say, still in the charts. 9 number one singles, 9 number one albums, 31 weeks at number one in the UK, 57 weeks at number one on the UK album chart. And then, 30 million global sales of Abba Gold. This, according to the BBC.
And you bought them all.
That's Yes, and I bought them all. That's me. Yes, I'm of course big fan of the
Of
group. But
course.
that's huge numbers. And what's interesting, I was saying, it looks like to me like the music of today, yes, doesn't always have that same sort of humor to it. It's not as approachable. It maybe it's just that I'm an old fart. I'm not sure about that.
That could possibly be one accusation, which many people have actually said for quite some time.
Yeah.
However, what I would say is that yes, ABBA's diverse catalogue of music is something that I think we've seen come up in other ways, which I think is quite clever. We've seen the films based around the idea of taking songs and structuring a story around it, and that's been very good. That's not only been good as a film, but also it's worked very well for their record sales. This is not uncommon because we've seen this with other groups, whether it be the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and others, where people have basically used a soundtrack idea of a particular group or an artist and built stories, television programs, and films around. But it's very difficult to do that with some of the artists today. So I can understand a certain generation, maybe the current generation, might be saying, well, I prefer the music of today. The lyrics are much more serious and they're a little bit more intelligent, which could be true. But if you think about it from the idea, as you said, the earworm concept and the
Yes.
idea that it's actually a little bit more fun, has pop music now lost that sense of entertainment? And I will say there is one other thing as well. To be fair to some of the artists today, it's the whole idea of downloads is very different to the way that music
Mm.
used to be consumed.
Well,
Of course, you had to buy a
yes.
plastic disc before, and there was no other way of getting it unless you went to a concert, etc.
Yes, true. Yeah.
And so downloads, and of course, obviously, copyright issues where people probably can't earn as much from their sales of their songs. They were very much reliant on, of course, the events or pop concerts. Well, in the last year and a half, we haven't had to have that because of COVID-19. So many people have said, actually, and here's another point, which is, what do you think that we should be thinking about to help artists to come through?
Well, look. I think that actually, although I was saying about the a lot of the music today being rubbish, uh, that may be true. That is my opinion of songs in the hit parade,
Mm.
the ones that are trying to be sold to us. But in fact, you can now go on one of the platforms we broadcast this show on, YouTube, and
Yes,
find many different artists who I think are far better. Not as
yes,
polished always, but uh, producing fun music. I mean, some of it at pretty high standards. Pomplamoose, for example, people may well know who are watching this show. They're producing fun,
mm,
approachable music. They started off doing covers and now produce their own. Uh, they're not exactly small producers. I mean, they are the same people are the owners of Patreon. So they've got a reasonable amount of money behind them, but they're not in hock to a big studio. So I think the big studios, the big labels, record labels, those sort of people, what they're doing is they're wanting to have very high quality and therefore often overproduced music. And I think
yes.
that squashes the creativity out of it.
Well,
So I'd encourage more people to
yes.
start putting your stuff for free on YouTube. And then you start to get your money because people want to buy it on Spotify or on iTunes. And also they'll want to come and see you live then. So that would be my advice. Not that I'm an expert on this. I could do broadcasting, but music, not my forte, but that would be my advice.
Well, indeed, and I think just as a closeout on that point, which is, I don't know, here's a benchmark. Groups in the early '60s, and to a certain extent, even the early '70s, were pretty much recording albums within a few days. I know that the Beatles, their first album, they did it in a day, and you can still hear the squeaking pedals and the scratchings on the strings, etc. But you got the sense of the performance. Today, I think you're probably right that maybe it's slick with a lot of producers, and some of the production is fantastic. The quality of the sound
Yeah,
is
sure.
excellent.
Yeah.
But what you are losing, perhaps, is that sense of the rhythm of the artist in a performance mode,
Yeah.
and that's probably something that maybe when we look back, we probably still
Yeah.
prefer.
Yeah.
But yes,
No,
one of
there
the
is. Sorry, one more thing is I just have another suggestion that may explain this, and that is we're all so sentimental, aren't we, these days? I mean,
oh,
is are we just sentimentally looking back to the time of
you're
ABBA
just a
and
big old dancing queen.
yeah, well, yes, it's been said before, and remembering those times in our youth, and we think it was better then, but maybe it really wasn't, or at least not as good as we remember it. So I think a bit of sentimentality comes into it as well.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. So that's ABBA in numbers, still selling more than popular music. So any other points, or is that what we're going to leave the people with?
Well, I think I would encourage people to delve into their archive and get out the old colourful, tingly, tangly, sparkly suits.
Of
And I don't
yes,
just mean clergyman's closet.
yes,
I'm talking
yeah.
about the ABBA outfits.
Yeah, I guess that's right. If you're going to have ABBA music, let's have ABBA costumes as well. Let's go for it. Let's have a bit. Let's go full nostalgia.
Go party!
Let us know what you got up to. Well, not in detail, of course, in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. But that's all from us for this time on Mark and Pete Live. Catch you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. See you soon.